While commentators sketch the reunion of the century and count down the minutes to a possible father-son meeting, King Charles III is doing what he does best, working. Not for the cameras, not for headlines, but for the quiet future of the land. At Sandringham he's launching a practical, almost stubborn project: 6 ponds, reed beds, the restoration of a water ecosystem, and protection of vulnerable species, above all, the great crested newt. It's the most polite and most eloquent answer to insider whispering: not let's talk, but let's plant, let's build. Charles was a green monarch long before the crown. Back when people mocked him for talking to trees, he was building organic gardens, trialing sustainable farming, and championing biodiversity. Highgrove is the living coat of arms of those beliefs: terraces, compost, bees, wildflowers. Yes, last year the garden hit turbulence, several key staff left and projects were reshuffled. But his style hasn't changed: cut the excess, finish what matters, and think in decades, not seasons. The focus now is Sandringham. And it's not pretty borders, it's water infrastructure: ponds, bank reinforcement, reed planting, and natural filters that let the water heal itself. According to documents reported in the press, 6 existing water bodies on the estate will be deepened, cleared, fitted with reed fins, and shaded by new plantings. By autumn, new reed beds, the lungs of these ponds, are slated to be fully in place. They'll capture silt and nitrates and soften noise, leaving clean water and shelter for the residents. Feeding zones for birds. Safe approaches to water for mammals. Microworlds among the roots for invertebrates. But the prime beneficiary is the great crested newt, a species that has been losing ground in Britain for decades. Lose the small ponds, lose the newt. Lose the newt, and a piece of the food web collapses. Local numbers ring the alarm. Within 2 kilometers of the proposed site in Norfolk, there have been hardly any stable newt-friendly ponds recorded over the past 10 years. This isn't cosmetic landscaping, it's a full ecological resuscitation. The application to the King's Lynn and West Norfolk Council states the goal plainly: boost biodiversity now, and secure it for the long term. The decision deadline is September 10th. Now look at the calendar. September 8th is the Wellchild Awards, a charity event Prince Harry truly supported for years, stories of seriously ill children and the people who stand by them. The date carries extra weight. It's also a day of remembrance for Elizabeth II. 3 years since Britain said thank you. And this week, rumour says, Harry may be in the UK. So the inevitable question: will father and son meet? Talk of an imminent meeting keeps multiplying, but the palace stays silent. The louder the chatter, the more eloquent Sandringham looks. If a meeting happens at all, logic suggests only this: it will be private. No briefings. No sources close to. No exit lane selfies. Not Clarence House corridors with a camera lurking around the bend, but open parkland and a path by the water, where the reeds are already whispering of the coming autumn. Not a backdrop, a setting, one that makes it easier to say exactly as much as needed, and no more. There's an honest symbolism here. While the son learns to pause between the loud paragraphs of his own biography, the father makes pauses in the soil. One tries to reorder words: reconciliation, conditions, demands, requests. The other shifts stones at the bottom of a pond so the water can run as it should. The king has 2 parallel disciplines right now: his medical regimen, treatment continues, and his environmental regimen, Sandringham breathes. Neither belongs on stage, because both are about adulthood. Why bring up newts when the issue is family? Because the method is the same. Ecosystems don't collapse from one blow, they fray through small losses. 1 pond gone, and a species sags. Lose 3, and the network fails. You don't revive it by saving one big fish, but by restoring every small element. Families are the same. There is no one big conversation that heals everything. There are small, timely choices made in quiet. For example, choose a meeting without cameras, even if the camera promises perfect light. Or, skip the headlines about forgiveness, and work on the tone of your voice. Yes, the week invites speculation. It's exactly the kind of moment tabloids love to splice ecology and emotion. The king is building ponds so that, and then the fantasies. But fact is fact: ponds decision on the 10th, Wellchild on the 8th, the Queen's remembrance also on the 8th. Reports suggest Charles is feeling better and continues therapy. Sandringham is both his work agenda and his place of strength. If there's a place to meet, it's the landscape he shaped with his own hands. Pause. Think about reeds. They aren't just a pretty fringe around the water. They're a living lab. Tadpoles hide there. Dragonfly larvae mature there. The reed warbler sleeps there at night. The newt sheds there, and hides there from the heron. Reeds do slowly what we always hope big conversations will do: filter. They take out the excess, leave what matters, and muffle the noise. Perhaps that's why Charles has always preferred a garden to a press conference. A garden works without microphones. Now, Harry. To be fair, Well Child isn't a red carpet for its own sake. It's one of those rare cases where charity isn't just talk. But any visit he makes now carries baggage: books, interviews, series, demands, will forgive if, grievances about protocol and family. In the past, it felt like he came for the people. Now, too often, every step is read through the lens of what does this mean for his personal storyline. If he does see his father, the healthiest version of that script sounds boring and therefore right. No conditions, no but, no optics. Only quiet and time. Against that backdrop, one detail in the Sandringham papers stands out. Over the decade, nearby there have been almost no ponds suitable for sustained amphibian populations. In ecology, that's a network break. Life hubs stop hearing each other, the species can't migrate, genetic diversity thins, resilience drops. The remedy is to reconnect the dots, restore corridors. In family terms, that translates simply: regularity beats spectacle. 3 quiet, timely visits are better than 1 historic one. There's also the procedural reality. Projects like this pass through consultations, objections, timelines, budgets, contractors. It's not a press release: we've decided to be better. It's dozens of pages, approvals, and fieldwork. And there's the same lesson for anyone expecting quick peace. Grown-up processes rarely look pretty. They look correct. Finally, the week's nerve: its date. September 8th will always be about Elizabeth II. About her ability to hold the line when the world pitched and rolled. About her rare talent for being the heir present without smothering anyone around her. If Harry flies in for Well Child, he arrives on her day. That doesn't oblige him to speak. It obliges him to atone. Sandringham's reeds and ponds offer a clue: quieter means stronger. Some will say, too symbolic, you're forcing it. Fine. Strip out the symbols and keep the arithmetic. The king is in treatment and at work. The water project is moving. The dates sit side by side. If a meeting happens, it won't include us. The less we hear about it, the better it likely went. That's not a letdown for the audience. That's a success for the conversation. And one conclusion suggests itself, hinted at by the week itself. The monarchy survives not because it winks at the camera on cue, but because it can tell ritual from spectacle, duty from storyline, a garden from a studio. The great crested newt doesn't need our approval, it needs water. The king doesn't need likes, he needs a schedule and the strength to keep treatment going. A family doesn't need headlines, it needs quiet talks where no one is drafting how I conquered the past. So newts over prince isn't a sneer. It's a priority formula. First the ecosystem, then the emotions. Rebuild the network, only then start the stories. If Harry chooses to match that rhythm, he has a chance. If he tries again to turn a meeting into a metaphor for the next chapter, Sandringham will remain what it is: a place where people work, not perform. The week is short, the autumn is long, and the ponds are here to stay. By September 10th, officials will give their verdict on the application. By the 8th, the country will once again say thank you to a queen who taught the hardest royal skill: leaving things unsaid. Between those dates there's room for another skill: listening. Reeds teach it better than any speechwriter: stand firm, whisper just enough to remind the world there's a breeze, and let the water pass through without trying to command it. In that setting, picture the possible meeting. No sources confirming the timing. No dashes from Clarence House to the palace under a bank of lenses. Just an avenue of trees, a short walk, a couple of sentences with no notebook open. And then each back to their work, one to documents and landscape crews, the other to the well-child children he truly once visited, not for storylines, but for the sake of the visit itself. If that simple order returns, this story still has a chance at a human continuation. And if not, if every pause is once more labeled a source said, then let's at least be honest. The king has already chosen how to spend his time. His choice needs no announcement. It looks like stands of reed that create new life in a single season. And like 6 ponds where living beings, not soundbites, will thrive. That is Sandringham's answer to all the reunions of the century. Water matters more than noise.